And I told her I don't care if he is her husband. Right now.
It's time to rise from the grave, pour yourself a cup, and enjoy the Coffee Crypt.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Coffee Crypt.
Hello.
Do you ever feel like so much happens sometimes between episodes?
2 weeks is a surprisingly long time. It's not, and it is, right?
Yeah.
A lot happens in 2 weeks.
I know. But as we were like preparing for this, I was like, I'm actually finding a lot of stuff. And like, not that there's never not a lot of stuff, because we always have things to talk about, but just sometimes it feels like there was a lot more than other times. And
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And not Scream related, surprisingly.
Oh my God, we should fix that. Hold on. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah,
you know what? Though, I have some things that we could talk about, but we don't have to add it. Maybe if we have time, but we got a lot.
People are probably like, what kind of show is this? Is this like
Just a
horror
Scream
or
show,
Scream? The answer is yes. Yeah. So this is, I didn't even think, I think this is the first episode with no Scream in it.
I think so, since we started, because I think the first one might have been, we might have talked about the train teaser,
and then the trailer,
posters.
And then the new posters. It's just been nonstop. They've been ramping up because we've only got another week.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
no.
God.
Next
okay,
week.
I'm not going to
a week from today.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about Scream.
Even though we just did.
I know.
We can't help ourselves.
That's okay.
But but I know we do have a lot to talk about. Including some interesting trailers. So yeah, I mean, let's kick it off. I mean, so we just got. Did we just get the trailer? Or did we just watch the trailer? I don't know if they just released it or not. But a Finnish film called Sisu, which is coming out April 28th, which is cool. I mean, like, it's not like horror in the straight up sense.
Correct,
it is going to definitely be brutal and have a lot of gore.
Body horror,
more body horror, right? So it is more of an action war film. So the synopsis is: when an ex-soldier who discovers gold in the Lapland wilderness tries to take the loot into the city, Nazi soldiers led by a brutal SS officer battle him. It just seems like a fun, brutal, like, we're killing Nazis kind of.
Yeah, like it seems like it's going to be a pretty interesting ride. I think, well, and to your point, again, not straight up horror, but definitely even from the trailer, a lot of body horror, a lot of like there's a scene in the trailer where he throws like some type of explosive something and it like lands, like it connects with someone's head and then goes like it blows up. I was like, whew.
yeah, a lot of military horror, which, I mean, war is horror. I mean, that's just
for sure,
real life horror.
For sure.
But I think they're definitely going to be exploring that in a really kind of fun kind of. It has like a very like high octane kind of. I mean, almost like a John Wick vibe. It's
from the creators of John Wick.
I didn't even see. I could pick up on from that. Just I don't even know if they said it in the trailer.
So yes, if there's I'm pretty sure it's I don't remember who or what role or whatever, but it is from a creator from John Wick. Yes.
Yeah, and it's got
that's hilarious.
Yeah, I didn't even know that, and I was just like, this feels like John Wick.
This kind of feels like it. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the trailer seemed fun. I like that style of action. Oh man, it's I was gonna say it's like John Wick. I'm trying to think of another film that like it was making me think of, but I
immediately went, because from the Nazi angle, I kind of went Inglourious Bastards. Like, obviously it's a different plot line, but it seems like it's going to be pretty brutal and kind of similar. And I think there's going to be some like dark humor in it and that kind of thing. So it should be pretty good.
Yeah. Just killing Nazis. That's always fun. That's like the easiest villain you could throw in.
So true. Yeah, no, that's true.
Not calling it a cop-out. It's just by saying it's an easy villain.
Yeah, it's easy to build hate around. You don't have to, there doesn't need to be a backstory. The Nazi is the that is the backstory.
That is the backstory. Yeah. I couldn't remember. It seemed like there was also a bit of a interesting backstory that they're going to follow from the hunter himself.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So I'll be, it seems like it'll kind of be a fun character study too. I hope it's a good balance. That's the thing is like, I enjoy these like high octane, like hyper gore, these action films, but maybe, a little more character. I think that's why y'all like something like a John. But I have faith in it because of like John Wick. It's like you do kind of, feel for him. I mean, the dog,
Oh my God, I know.
Yeah. So I feel like there'll be some kind of angle, some just
I'm
no
sure.
more dead dogs, please.
Yeah, leave the animals alone.
Can't handle that again for another film.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. I actually didn't see John Wick for the first time until like a little over a year ago. I saw it like way after the hype, and it was awful. That scene is just as bad as everyone said it was. It was awful.
Yeah.
No thanks.
But yeah, I mean, I haven't seen all I know like the fourth one is coming out like pretty soon, right?
I think so.
I don't
know. I think I've only seen the first two, so I didn't see the third one yet.
Yeah, I saw because I didn't see the first one in theaters either. I saw a little more like a bit longer ago than about like a year range, but I saw the first two kind of back to back.
Oh yeah.
But yeah. So that's teaser. So what do we see? That was going to be April 28th.
Yes.
So not too far.
No, not too far. April's going to be a good month for horror, I think.
Oh, well, Evil Dead, which there's no Evil Dead in this. No, we're not covering Evil Dead.
What is the show?
I know. Those are just kind of our two
go-to things. Yeah. So there's a trailer that just dropped this past Thursday called The Park, and this is one that I think you had said you had heard something about, but I had not.
So I think what happened was they maybe released a short teaser before the main trailer, or I had totally missed something. It.
Yeah,
I don't know. But yeah.
It's a short film, so it's actually only going to be like an hour and 20 minutes, which I only even point out because of the fact that like everything is like 40 hours now. Mm-hmm. But the short little synopsis is: after a virus kills off the Earth's adults, rival children battle for control of an abandoned theme park. So this is more like thriller horror. Mm-hmm. It looks like it's going to be like I feel like, first of all, I'm like such a sucker for abandoned theme parks. Like, I would kill to go get to like hang out at one for the day and for the night. Like, I think that would be so much fun. And so I was like, when I looking through stuff and found it, I was like, I hadn't even heard of it. But it does look like it's going to be kind of brutal. The kids, I mean, essentially, they have to learn to kind of toughen up, unfortunately, and learn to survive. It kind of reminded me a little bit of, did you watch Sweet Tooth on Netflix?
No, but I heard good things.
Oh, it's so good. I just rewatched season 1 because season 2 is coming this spring, hopefully. But the short of it, and this doesn't give too much away, but there is a group of teenagers that live in an abandoned, something similar to this, and they wear animal masks. And they go by animal things, and so do the first set of kids that we get introduced to in the trailer for the park. And I was like, oh, this is giving me like dark Sweet Tooth vibes. But anyway, it looks like it's going to be pretty interesting. It's always crazy because one of my favorite things in apocalyptic film in general is this like evaluation of what happens to people when there's no more rules, and to push it further and make it kids. Like I'm actually pretty interested in this one, and kind of surprised I hadn't heard about it until literally like the day the trailer dropped. I had no idea.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for these kinds of stories. Like the Lord of the Flies is my favorite book. One of my favorite books from high school. So just anything about like, because it, with Lord of the Flies, right? It's like kids without adults, kind of figure out their own structure, right? Like different scenario, but but yeah, anything like Hunger Games is kind of they're still adults, but it's kids.
I get what you mean, though.
But yeah, like Battle Royale, like stuff like that. I like.
Did you ever hear there was this show, and it was on satellite channels, so I don't know like where else it was available, but there used to be a TV channel called Wham, WAM, and on that channel there was a show called The Tribe. And it's about a world where a virus wipes out a majority of the adults, and the kids form these teenagers, young adults. Some of them are actually pretty small, but most of the main characters are like bigger kids. And, but they form little groups, and there's like really bad ones and there's good ones, and they have like names for the tribes, and they wear like paint on their face and feathers in their hair. And It's wicked. It is like one of my favorite shows growing up. Hardly anyone even knows what it is. No one's heard of it, but so good.
You might have mentioned, you might have told me about this. Because now as you're describing it, it sounds so familiar, but I know I have not seen it. So either you told me about it or someone else did, but it sounds real. I mean, that sounds quite. I'm sure the episodes are somewhere.
Yeah, you can watch most of them on Amazon for free, I think. But it's the same thing though. Kids surviving in a world without adults and how brutal that could be even for children, because even when human beings are that young, there is still a fight or flight instinct. It's just like interesting to kind of push the envelope on like what that would look like. So I'm interested in this one. I didn't see a release date for this one. The trailer is brand new. Right now it's just showing in post-production. So I'm assuming we'll have a release date soon.
Hopefully. There's nothing listed on IMDb.
Yeah, it just
I see. Well, it says March 2023, which that doesn't sound right.
No, because the trailer just came out in March.
Unless they're gonna surprise us at the end of the month with it or something. Like they're gonna do like trailer, ramp it up, and it's out. Sometimes some stuff, sometimes they do that. Like it'll be like trailer and then like not long after.
Especially if it's gonna go straight to a streaming service.
Yeah.
Theatrical releases, I think, is when they tend to do the longer wait times between the trailers and stuff. So maybe you're right. Maybe we'll get it like super fast and it'll be like.
Yeah. I mean, the coolest thing was when Netflix did that Cloverfield movie. They like released a trailer during the Super Bowl, and it was like,
10 Cloverfield Lane.
I love 10 Cloverfield. This was the one that they did on Netflix was the space one.
Paradox.
Yeah, they like dropped the trailer and they were like out now.
I forgot about that. Yeah. Okay. I know what you're talking about now. Okay,
But it's cool. So they filmed this. So according to IMDb, though, the park was filmed in Six Flags, which is really awesome. I'm
telling you, like no adults, sickness, fighting for survival, and you at a theme park, I'm in.
It's pretty awesome.
Checks a lot of boxes.
Oh yeah. Not horror related, but the movie Adventureland with Kristen Stewart. You know that one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I actually. So I'm pretty sure it's based on the Adventureland like that I grew up by.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, it's like a Long Island park. So any Long Islanders out there, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah. So what do we got next?
Your next trailer.
Duh. That's me, not you. I'm like, tell me about the next trailer.
Go ahead. What's next?
So we have Invoking Yell, which is a Chilean horror film. So the synopsis for that is set in the 1990s, a story of 3 20-something women who venture into the woods to shoot a demo tape for their black metal band. And this is a found footage, right? Yes.
It's found footage. Yep.
Right. I watched the trailer, but I'm like, for some reason, I'm like shaking. I'm like, racking my brain. Like, wait, was it found footage? No, it was.
It is.
So it is a found footage film, which I know you're excited for.
Always.
And I think I told you I've been because of you, I've been a little more into found footage.
Which we're going to get into in a little while, and I'm very excited about.
Which we will be getting into for sure.
Yes.
But the trailer I thought was really, I really liked the atmosphere that they were achieving with this trailer. I was just digging the vibe. They're in the woods. Of course, you're gonna get that classic like Blair Witch sense.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's like ripping off in any way. I just think obviously that came first, so we're gonna always compare things to Blair Witch.
And especially anything in the woods, right? Anything in the woods, anything like that's an immediate go-to. You know what I liked about the trailer is it didn't tell us anything. There were no scares in the trailer, hardly at all.
No,
and so there was no, it wasn't revealing at all. And that's either going to end up being because there's nothing to reveal, or it's going to end up being a really smart trailer that got us interested to see what else they could do with it. So yeah. I mean, you already know found footage. I'm in. Like, and
and it also kind of gave me vibes of the short from VHS 99, the one in the sewer with the band.
Yeah. Oh my God, what was that one called? Yes, I know which one you're talking
about. I'm forgetting the name of the short too, but it was kind of giving me a little of that as well.
Except more like less punk, because the one in the. But I know what you mean though. Like as far as the concept of I think this has a lot of potential. I'm always interested in seeing like new ideas when it comes to found footage. There's actually a horror video game. Everything goes back to video games lately for some reason. There's a horror video game, and I cannot remember the name of it, where you play as a teenager in the woods, and you have like your friends are out in the woods, and there was this horrible accident with children, just like in the trailer for this. And you have to go out with these candles and do this thing to help like free the children, but you can't let them like catch you. And this gave me like that. Like I was like, oh, I wonder like if they drew inspiration or what the connection is. Cause there's a couple of other things that are similar, storyline wise, but I thought like, I think this could be a different, style of found footage. I'm into it. I'm excited. Yeah.
And I love the 90s grunge aesthetic. I'm always about that. So
because this takes place in 97, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The synopsis just says 90, but I think specifically it is 97.
I think it did specifically say 97, or maybe Angel made that up. That's also possible.
It might have said it in the trailer, like maybe as like a thing on the
I
camera.
feel like I did see it somewhere.
Yeah, because the cameras always show the dates in most found footage films.
I think you're right. I think that is where I saw that.
It was probably in that kind of little blurb.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I'm excited. I'm not particularly like a metal fan in general.
I'm not really either.
I like hair metal, like 80s, like arena rock kind of metal.
Yeah,
but,
I know what you mean.
Less like the the growling. That was my horrible impression of a growl. Like the pig snarling kind of metal.
I know. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Even though although my friends growing up were really into like screaming metal kind of
I love screamo. Yeah, screamo.
Yeah,
Screamo is my jam, but like I think the type of music that these girls are going to be doing, I don't think is like my typical style, but yeah.
No, but I was just going to say I've been in many a mosh pit. Sometimes against my will.
I used to hardcore dance back in the day. I used to go to like these really like hole in the wall places with bands no one's ever heard of. And like, that was my scene when I was younger.
Although when the wall of death happened, that's when I ran away.
Yeah, that did get kind of scary. Well, people got reckless. Like, true.
Yeah. No, mosh pits. They didn't scare me as much. But when people were like deliberately like running into each other, I'm like,
I don't know about this.
I will pass on the concussion. Thank you.
See you later when you're done. Yeah.
I'll go listen in the corner.
Yeah, I'm sure. Depending on how it comes out, I'm sure Tom and I will probably cover it on Found Footage Fridays because we try to keep up with the new ones, especially if they're good. So.
Totally. Yeah. So I know the next one we talked about a little bit because there was some news, but now
there was some information. Yeah. So in the last episode we talked about The Pope's Exorcist, which is starring Russell Crowe. It's supposedly based on true events. But the trailer just came out for it. Mm-hmm. Like by the time this comes out, I think it'll been like a week or so since it came out. Hasn't been that long.
No.
But portrayal of real life figure, Father Gabriel Amorth, a priest who acted as chief exorcist at the Vatican and who performed more than 100,000 exorcisms in his lifetime. And the release date for this one is April 7th. So that one's coming up too. Exorcism movies in general are one of my favorites. I love when horror pushes the envelope with anything that has to do with religion. This is like my third favorite subgenre probably. So I'm pretty excited about this. I love Russell Crowe. And the trailer looks really scary.
Yeah. It wasn't what I was expecting because I think with a lot of possession films, I love them. But I think sometimes you get a very run-of-the-mill-esque ones. Like I'm kind of thinking...
Yeah, like cut and paste of the same thing.
Yeah. Like I know we talked about our mutual appreciation for Emily Rose, so that's not one I'm referencing. But there was one with like Jeffrey Dean Morgan that was kind of like cut and paste. The Possession. Well, yeah, easy. You really boil it down to a simple title like that. But although I did appreciate the Jewish spin.
The Dybbuk,
yeah. Mm-hmm. And just like there being like rabbis.
I think there was some cool shots in it.
Yeah.
Particularly down the like daughter's throat. And like when there's like another, that was pretty crazy. But I know what you mean. Storyline wise, it's like dumb people get ridiculous object clearly with something bad attached to it. And then, now we got a demon in her body.
Right. But when done well, I mean, I think possession films really.
Yeah.
Oh, and then there was that other one. The Pray for the Devil. That was.
I haven't seen that one yet.
That was a rough one.
Well, it's PG-13. So, and I'm a huge advocate for PG-13 horror. There's so many really good PG-13 horror movies. However, I do not think anything related to demonic possession, exorcisms, anything of the sort should ever be anything under R. Never.
How do you censor the devil? You know what I mean? Like
you are limiting what you can do with that film and how you can make people. Yeah, no, I totally, when I was excited about the film when I saw the trailer before it had a rating. And then when I learned that it was rated PG-13, I was immediately like, oh.
Yeah.
It is. I'm still going to watch it because I do love possession films. But and then there's really good ones like The Rite with Anthony Hopkins, The Seventh Day, which has got oh my gosh, I'm drawing a Guy Pearce. That one's a Netflix original. There's Emily Rose. There's The Taking of Deborah Logan. There's The Devil Within, which is another found footage movie, which so is Deborah Logan. Yeah. Those are all really great, but they push that. They're outside the box, you know.
But you have to. I think when you have a formula, you need to find some new things to do with it.
Yeah. And with this one, you're going in like, oh, based on a true story. You know, it's like a whole nother level of.
But it has that angle. But I also feel like there is some grit to the possessions that they showed in the trailer.
Yeah.
You know, in a way that you can't do with PG-13, which I think is part of the problem, is that you're limited with the body horror. And I feel like a possessed person needs to be able to
that's the scary
show
part.
that in a horror film.
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. That part when he's like, I love when there's stuff like this, like specifically calling out the good part of the religion. So like, he's like, you know, you can only do what God allows you to do. And then he does that to that girl. And he's like, did he allow me to do that? I'm like, oh, you're just like, yeah, well, what do you say to that, priest? Ugh.
Oh man, I guess I'm excited. The special effects look pretty good too. Like
it's a big production. I think
it's a big production because I'm thinking there's that one shot in particular where there's like a obviously CG cloud, but it looks good because sometimes I feel like with the CG you can get a little like, but there was like smoke cloud billowing and it looked good.
I agree. No,
so that
I
makes
think
me
it's
hopeful.
look good.
Yeah. But yeah, I was just trying to think of anything. Yeah, just the atmosphere. I think the tension, like you said, it's R-rated, so I think that has it going for it. It's an April release, so obviously I think they're trying to. Is that like Easter time? I'm assuming.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what they're doing. That's why
I think you're. I didn't even. Oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that.
Because that's also what happened 2 or 3 years ago. There was that other Jeffrey Dean Morgan horror film. He does so many. But it was like the one where it was like a false prophet film, and she was like performing miracles and. Yeah. So that was Easter time. So there's always like a religious horror film around Easter time.
That's a good time.
Yeah. Capitalize on the holiday.
Why not?
I'm pretty sure The Omen came out, like the Omen remake, rather. I don't know about the Omen original, but I think the remake also might have been. Oh no, unless it was 666, I think it came out. I don't remember. now I'm blanking.
Oh yeah, I don't know either. I haven't seen the remake of The Omen. I've only seen the original.
I saw it probably like once. But well, again, we were talking about Children of the Corn, which we'll get to. That I thought I saw, watched it, and realized, no, I didn't see it. And I was like, oh no, this is new to me. I don't remember.
That's why the ones that you remember like long after the fact, especially like now that we're older, like those are the ones that you like want to talk about because you're like, man, like that was something I'm never gonna forget. Like that film, man. Yeah. So anyway.
Wait, oh my god, I love that coffee cup. What is that? I do love that, and I love the shape of it. Like that is just such a sexy mug.
It's cool, isn't it?
It is just so like I want to drink everything out of that.
I drink hot chocolate out of it more often than not, but this is Melinda, my best friend got me this cup. She got it at the change of the season.
Oh,
so last fall when it started to get our 2 days of fall weather that we get here in the South. But anyway, but yeah, so that's my and it's giant. You see how big it is?
No, I feel like you could fit out, it's just like you said, I think hot chocolate's great to put in that.
All kinds of stuff
maybe a spiked cider I would probably do.
All kinds of stuff, yeah.
All kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah. And then I think I said this my last thing on the last exorcist on the post exorcist is that I think I mentioned this last time, was that I like the director. I really loved Overlord. So
that's right. I forgot that's who that was. Yeah, we did talk about that because I really liked that movie too. Yeah.
So that also makes me just
that's right. Super
hopeful. But yeah. So which brings us to our first news story, which we have our remake of Children of the Corn, which I believe we have it written down in theaters, but I think it's Shudder.
Is it?
I think it's going to Shudder this week.
I thought I saw a thing that said it was going to theaters. Is it going to select theaters? Maybe. Maybe I'm wrong. Is it Shudder?
I'm pretty sure it was going to Shudder.
Oh.
But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just like, it says March 21st, but then I could have sworn. Hold on, I'll Google this.
See, I thought I saw a theater date for like this past week.
So it was made a long time ago, which I know can also be confusing with a lot of the dates. It was made in 2020.
That's true. You're right. You do have to kind of investigate with dates, because that also is the true. If anything does the film festival circuit, then there's going to be like 15 release dates. And if it comes from another country, there's multiple release dates.
Right.
You're right. You do have to look into it to figure it out.
Because I believe it was filmed in like 2019, 2020-ish.
So, okay. So that explains why I was sitting here thinking, why did we not hear more about this film before it was like all of a sudden there was a trailer and it's like coming out? And that's probably why, because I remember when there were whispers of a remake years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense then. So that's probably why, because that was one of the things I was going to talk about, was like, how was there not more about this?
Yeah, no, it was definitely very just kind of like brushed over.
Yeah.
Which, I don't really know like how big Children of the Corn is in terms of like,
I know, but isn't it
horror
like
fans?
classic?
Because I don't feel like I noticed many people talk about it.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
And I don't know if they were really like anticipating a big like, ooh, like we're back,
Which might be why it's going straight to streaming, if that's the case.
I'm pretty sure, man. Yeah, release. See, now I Google it. Release date March 3rd, but then it doesn't say.
See, that's what I saw. I saw March 3rd theaters,
right?
But
so weird. So we're gonna have to do some digging.
We're such a great source of information.
I know. We're here to mostly just chit chat. No, we're here for something. So followed by a brief theater release, immediately followed by a video on demand.
Oh, okay. So it's
going to be in theaters, but very limited
release. That's what I was trying to think of. Okay, yeah. So that's what it is. Okay. So it's doing all of it. It's going to do the theater first for some theaters, I'm sure, and the specific ones, and then which honestly might find some success that way, right? Because if it's a small budget, probably didn't cost them much to make. You're going to put out a film in like a Terrifier 2 kind of way. So whatever it does might surprise you,
right? It might actually do okay. Mm-hmm. And then a video on demand, so you'll have like those rental. Unless, it is going to be on Shudder. So
you were right, yeah.
We're
both right. See, we knew the whole time.
I knew, but I was just doubting myself because I'm like going through the IMDb.
Well, I was doubting it too. I was like, man, did I make the theater thing up?
No, it turns out it was all true. It was
all of it, all of the above. Things.
It was options E, all of the above. But anywho, so I'm genuinely excited for this. Now because as you know, based on my annoying texts to you as I've been watching these films, it was a couple nights ago. No, literally, 2 nights ago. I watched the first one. And then yesterday I binge watched while I'm hanging out with my baby. I binge watched 4 of them. So now I'm on the 6th one. and they just get progressively bonkers. They are so wild. Like they're not scary. I think you even said, like, as an adult, like
not scary.
They're not scary, but like they're fun. Like they're and like some of the deaths are so campy and ridiculous. Like I sent you the picture in the third one. They literally had a doll as a body double, like a Barbie doll.
It did. Yeah,
funny. There's a death in the second one where like an old lady gets hit by a car in her wheelchair, and the wheelchair goes flying into a store window with like her in it.
Oh my God. I don't remember that. I think I've only seen the first two, and I think I only really remember some of the first one. It's been a long time.
So the first two are the only ones that were ever released theatrically, other than this one now.
The new one, yeah.
The new one. And then after that, it was Dimension Films doing their like straight to video, like they did with Hellraiser.
Right.
But I will say, like, I think I even told you this, like, they are kind of better than some or a lot of those Hellraiser ones. Also because I feel like they stayed to like they were intended to be Children of the Corn films. Like with the Hellraiser films, so many of those were like reworked scripts to fit like the Cenobite
to make them into
yeah. Mm-hmm. So these were from the start meant to be, you know, children films. So you know, I think that works. But yeah, no, they're campy. So but based on the trailer, it feels more serious.
Yeah.
It feels, you know, and I like kind of the like the tone of it. They are kind of taking a different approach to like the story.
What's actually happening?
Yeah.
I like it though. Very culty.
It is very culty. It's but they're messing up with the timeline a little bit, or they're playing with the timeline, because if you remember in the original, it was like the adults are massacred, and then 3 years later, Linda Hamilton and her boyfriend pull into town, and there's just all these kids around. In this one, it's like we're seeing the adult massacre in real time.
Yes, that's like the focal point of the story. It is the focal point,
rather than a prologue.
Right. Yep.
So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be good.
It's going to be good. And now instead of the protagonists being two adults, we're kind of getting an older teen.
I would say, God, maybe old enough to drive, but probably not. Like 14.
I mean, I wonder how much of the mythology they're going to keep, right? So, because in the Children of the Corn, it's like the cult of children. They opt to like die by the time when they turn 19. They were like, that's when you're an adult, you're sinful. All right, I gotta go join.
Yep.
You know, he walks, behind the rows. So she's probably like 17, 18, maybe at the cusp of like, so I imagine she's in that position where they would be pressuring her to die.
Well, yeah. Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
So, because there were older kids in the original cult, right? And it was like, it was a weird like grooming thing, and it was like getting them.
It was, and it's always it again. It's like we were talking about before with the park. It's like we see things. We watch, all kinds of horror movies about real life documentaries about adults grooming and adults making cults and like. But the concept of it being children was always why it was so interesting back when it came out originally. Yeah. So, but I will say though, like in the trailer, like the kids, they look, I don't know, like they I feel like they're going to really sell this, because the little girl that's like the leader or whatever, she's like, I don't know, like it just looks like it's going to be pretty gruesome, and it looks like it's going to be kind of an interesting, and then maybe if it's successful, I'll be curious to see if they do more, but.
Yeah, it is interesting. I just feel like there's not a lot of pressure on the film, which could be a good and a bad thing.
I mean, right? That's true.
Because they're not coming back from a very good place. So like there's not a lot to live up to.
But I think people are going to be intrigued enough, and it's not being overhyped, so there's not that. Right. Like, so to your point, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what the response is on this one.
And I apologize to any Children of the Corn fans out there. You know, I love them, but I am kind of shitting on them a little bit. So I do apologize if it sounds like I'm dissing the franchise. It just, it is kind of, I enjoy my cheese and my camp and my corniness,
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm excited. If it comes out tomorrow, I wonder if it's a dual release and it's going to be on Shudder as well. That I'm just going to watch it tomorrow night. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to the theater and before that.
Yeah. If it's not the same, it's probably going to be really close together either way, right?
Usually.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, and now we also have, speaking of Shudder, we have actually another Shudder film, Spoonful of Sugar. So I just realized we didn't give the synopsis for Children of the Corn, but I don't really think we have to. I think we all know.
We gave it.
We all know what that's
about it. Yeah.
Children, and they are in the corn. No.
And that's the story.
No, okay, so Spoonful of Sugar. Millicent is taking a semester off from her studies to take care of Johnny, a sickly, mute child with severe allergies. His mother, Rebecca, is an author, and his father, Jacob, is a carpenter. And that is literally that's the synopsis. They don't really go into plot too much, but you see it in the trailer. So,
yes.
But even with the trailer, it's very... They're not very straightforward. Like, they're showing you kind of like where, Millicent is kind of the not foil to this family, I guess, kind of. She is an interesting influence on this family, to say the least. But I was really digging. So what did you think on the trailer?
I think that so this looks fun to me. Like, I think this is going to be kind of great. So the reason it's called Spoonful of Sugar is because of the medication involved, which is LSD.
Right. And
so I don't know if you want to call it, I feel like this is not an appropriate term to use, but I don't know what else you would call it. It's almost like it looks like she's microdosing this family with LSD to create turmoil because she wants to be the mom. She wants the dad and she wants the son to be hers. And it's like this plot to kind of make that happen. But it looks devious. Like, it's like some of the scenes of like her and the demo. I don't know how old she is, but like, oof, like it's very devious. I think there is a movie, and I know, and I cannot remember what it is, but I know that this reminds me of something. But I cannot.
It's very it is a more psychological horror version of like Obsessed and what's the one before Obsessed? The not Basic Instinct. Fatal Attraction. So like Fatal Attraction, Obsessed, like those kinds of films, but this is a much more
and but it looks like it has potential to kind of go pretty dark though, I think.
Oh yeah.
So I think this one's on Shudder right now. It's live as this episode goes out, right? So because it just came out this past, it came out on the 2nd. So it's out. You can watch it on Shudder. Pretty sure, but that so I'll be watching that one soon. Probably it looks good. I haven't this is another one I'd never heard of until like recently.
Right.
I'm surprised.
It's a lot of films kind of flying under the radar,
but maybe that's for the best, because I'm telling you, so many of those movies last year that everybody was like, oh my god, I hated them, and at least now I don't have an opportunity to feel that way.
Yeah, no, I think the hype train can definitely I think affect our enjoyment of films. I'm trying to think if that happened to me with maybe Smile. I think maybe Smile might have got hyped and I was like, oh, I liked it.
I really liked Smile. I did not like Barbarian.
Right, that was your example.
That was my equivalent of that. That was my everybody loves this movie and I am confused. Why? Yeah. So, but I think this one looks like it'll be like just like a little dark good time. We'll see.
Yeah. I think if we're both going to watch it within the next 2 weeks, then we could probably do a little mini discussion of it. So, I mean, if you guys are interested to hear our thoughts, let us know.
Yeah. So the next topic I'm actually really pumped about. So we were talking earlier about I'm going to go slightly out of order. So we were talking earlier about found footage and like you kind of diving more into found footage. So about a month and a half ago, I think Tom and I covered on Found Footage Fridays, we covered horror in the high desert. And we, as is the case with loving found footage, so we hit duds a lot more often than we find gems. And so when we went into Horror in the High Desert, we knew it was a mockumentary. We both like really loved it. It was like we really loved that style. So we're like, oh, let's check it out. Blew us out of the water. We absolutely loved it. It was something, it was different. It was unique. It was like engaging in ways that found footage films just sometimes can't do, you know? And it was fantastic. Well, at the end of it, it talks about there being a sequel, but it was supposed to come out in 2022, and I couldn't find any information on it. Well, somebody posted recently on Twitter about Horror in the High Desert, and I posted about it and said, you know, like, oh, like we covered that on Found Footage Fridays. And the guy, Dutch, that created the film, actually said that the trailer was dropping. It just dropped this past Monday, and asked if Tom and I wanted early screeners to see the second one. So the trailer for Horror in the High Desert 2, Minerva, is, you can look that up. It's all over social media right now because I've been trying to boost it. And I know Dutch has been posting it. And, but the film is like, they had to do like a, he didn't call it a rush release, but essentially in order to pick your timeline based on how they're submitting it to be posted in these places, it would be a really long time before the film could come out. And they didn't want to wait any longer. So they just picked as soon as you can. And so they get the release date like a week before it goes out or something to that effect.
Oh, yeah.
Which is interesting from an industry standpoint. I did not realize that, which may be why sometimes these smaller indie films we don't hear about until they're like the release date's like right now, you know? Yeah. But no, this film, the first one, Horror in the High Desert, was so good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And it was really cool for him to send me like a screener for it. Yeah. Well, Tom has it too, the screener for it. But I also, it's always a little nerve-wracking, right? Because what if you don't like it? What if it's like
pressure's on a little bit? Yeah.
It's a sequel to a found footage film. Like, oh, you know?
Yeah.
I was so excited about it because I thoroughly enjoyed Horror in the High Desert. It reminds me a lot of Savage Land, which I also love. That's on my new top 10 list for found footage. So I was like, I'm going to watch it right now. Like as soon as he sent it to me, I like went and watched it. And it was so good. Like it's, and I'm not obviously like, I'm very limited on what I'm going to say anyway, because it's not out yet, but it is so good. It's as engaging as the first one, but it's scarier. Like there were more shots that caught me off guard and made me uncomfortable. And I was laughing because I don't control the TV in my house. And so I had to watch it on my phone, which is fine. It didn't ruin the experience. In fact, it probably would have been even better, like even scarier on the big TV. But so there was a time where I had my phone and I was like, like I was reacting to what I saw on screen. And my 4-year-old's like, why are you scared? He's like looking at his cartoon, like, what are you doing, lady? So, yeah, so that I'm really excited about. And then you finally watched this one for the first time, right? The first.
Right. So I watched the original 2 nights ago. And, and I'm so happy I did, but I also part of me wishes I didn't because I was home alone with the baby.
Oh no.
So my husband's on a business trip right now. So it's just me, the baby, and the dog. Yeah. So I'm like home alone watching this movie. And I was like, and I hate to text during movies, but like I feel like I had to text you as I was watching it because like you're right. It was so engaging. Like I forgot, like it was, I don't know, like sometimes you just like you get so lost in it, you forget like something bad's gonna happen, or it's just like, well, no, it's like I forget that like it was found footage because I'm like
mockumentary.
Yeah, the mockumentary. So like you do like it does kind of it messes with your mind in that way because you're watching these interviews and you're like, oh, I don't trust her, or oh, I don't trust him.
Like, yes,
and like,
so
and
true.
Yeah, and like they did a good job at kind of throwing you off because it's like, yeah, you don't know why he goes missing until the very end. Yeah. And so like there's all these like almost like red herrings throughout the interviews. And I'm
there's
like
finger pointing and
and I'm like they're sitting like trying to figure this out. But it was freaky. When they finally reveal what happened, right? I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it yet.
Yeah.
But like that, like 10, 15 minutes of footage, like I'm just like on the edge of my seat. Like
so I was gonna say because there's that one moment which I texted you the moment I'm thinking of in my head when we were talking about it via text, and so like and I'm not exaggerating, y'all, like very few movies other than specific body parts getting pulled out and things that I've like, about like fingernails and teeth. But anyway, outside of that, from just an atmospheric build-up moment, it is very rare that a movie can make me look away. Yeah. Very rare. And this one, I just kept like, because I was like, something's about to happen. I'm so invested in this story. I want to know what's about to happen. What are we about to uncover? What is all like? And I'm just like, oh my God, I have goosebumps talking about it. And then that moment that I texted you about happens, and I was like, oh,
no. Oh,
it scared me so bad. It is I rewinded it and scared myself again. It was so good.
I watched it like that. Like I was. And I don't do that. Doesn't like I don't get scared by movies. Like I'm very jaded. Like I think just being a horror fan, I think we get jaded and like we don't get scared.
We get like immune to it.
But like I think it's just they weaved the narrative very well to the point where it just felt
so well done,
believable, and like you just get like tricked into getting scared.
Yeah, and this is on Tubi. So if you guys are watching this and you're interested to check it out, which I cannot recommend enough, it is on Tubi. So you can watch it on Tubi. And I think Dutch said that it's probably also going to be on Tubi for the sequel. I know it will be available on Amazon. But either way, though, when it comes out, it is going to streaming. You'll be able to watch it. So I highly recommend checking out. We're in the High Desert, like blew me out of the way. This was not a film. I hadn't heard of this guy. I hadn't heard of this movie. It's relatively new. It came out in 2021 or 20. I don't know. It's relatively new. It's only a couple years old.
So it was like a COVID production, kind of.
I think maybe. But yeah, it's so good. And it's, and I love mockumentary, like Lake Mungo. That's like one of my favorites. So this was like right up my alley. And Savage Land, again, mockumentary, like those if they're done right, they will make you forget that this didn't actually happen. And that's what happened. And the same thing happened to me in 2, because you're watching these things unfold. And it's the smallest things at first, but this has more scary stuff in it than the original. Because the original, it's all built up for that last little bit of time, like what you were saying.
It's one real horror scene. It's a long scene, but there's really one horror scene. But
like, that's it.
The rest of it is atmosphere and building the story and getting you invested, which is so like you need that. And I feel like because sometimes with found footage is like you do lose some investment if it's not done right. Like if you're not like because there's almost like there is like an element of like detachment from the characters if you're not seeing them all the time. So you really need to like that's where I think the mockumentary helps.
And they did, and I will say this last like positive thing about the sequel specifically for when people get to watch it, which like as soon as you watch it, you have to like text me and tell me what you thought. But there is so much use of various types of technology, and I love when found footage movies do that.
Oh, that's exciting.
Because it's not just as simple as like this one thing and it's added to the camera people with the documentary, and I'm telling you, it's well done. He said when we were talking, when Dutch and I were messaging about it, he said like, this is my baby, and the passion for the subgenre, the passion for the story and wanting to get reactions out of the viewers, like I'm really excited for people to see this one. Like, I feel like I'm a part of it. I'm not, but I feel like I am because I'm like so invested. And the first one was so good. And I think when Tom and I reviewed it, we were kind of coming out of like a trench of like just not great ones. And so it was such a refreshing film, and to see them be able to duplicate and still make it better in the second one, like blew me away. So I'm excited for you. I'm excited for you to watch it, Steve, because I think you'll like it. If you really like the first one.
I'm like scared to watch it too.
Well, I'm laughing because you're like, oh, I'm home by myself, and I'm just sitting here like, that's literally me all the time.
Right. Yeah.
I'm surrounded by people, but and I know how to fight, so don't be getting no ideas. But I'm just saying, like, it is like it's very unsettling, and I think I'm gonna rewatch it when it comes out, obviously, and I want to watch it on the big TV.
Yeah, I mean, like my saving grace is that I don't live in the desert, so.
And you ain't gonna catch me in no desert either, not after this movie.
And also after having seen the Outwaters too, like I'm all right. I'm like. I'm
Desert's a no for me.
And plus, you know what? There was like, so between, because I'll talk about the Outwaters later because I do want to bring that up. But just snakes alone are going to keep me away from the desert.
That's a good reason to stay away from the desert.
That is like my one thing that I can't handle. Are snakes.
Yeah.
Don't get any ideas, anyone. Don't start sending me pictures of snakes.
Yeah, that's not nice. Don't do that. Yeah. So speaking of places we probably don't want to go, there's a new horror movie coming out March 14th called The Lake. How was that for a segue?
Yeah, there we go. That
was. So I don't know too much about this, but I think we both watched the trailer and we know. So The Lake is an upcoming horror movie that is it's a creature feature about a monster in a lake. I think I saw the clip of the monster, I think at nighttime before I saw like the actual trailer or something to that effect.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know. I don't have too much to say on this one. I think that I love creature features. That's my second favorite subgenre of horror. So I'm like, the creature looks really good. It looks like it could be like a wild time. And lakes make me uncomfortable anyway because you can't see in the water and everybody pees in them. So they gross me out. But the idea of there being like, you know, I'm curious to see where this goes from a storyline perspective, because not all creature features end up being story strong films. So we'll see, you know, what this one kind of turns into. And that's fine with me. I really am just there for the monsters eating people, and that's fine. But I'll be curious to see how deep this does or doesn't go.
Right. No, it's hit or miss if it comes like when it comes to characters. I'm just trying to think of a creature feature where like characters came first, but like none really come to mind. But I do enjoy just like creature features in general. Like you know, growing up, I love anything like Lake Placid, anything with like an animal or like a.
I love animal movies.
Oh man,
shark movie. Ugh.
Yeah. Well, it was Jaws, obviously, but then like Deep Blue Sea was a big one for me growing up.
We were just talking about, weren't you and I just talking about the Meg?
Yeah, you mentioned the Meg.
We were just talking about that, weren't we?
Which, we were. We were texting about it because you mentioned the sequel is coming.
Yep.
And I had never seen the original because I just kind of was like, oh, you know, it's a Jason Statham movie. I'm like, I'm not really into that his movies in general. No shade to him. They're not, you know.
Those are kind of dime a dozen, I would say. I think his action-y movies are like all the same, but I really liked the Meg. But I agree. I like creature features, things with the animals that are monsters. I'm here for it.
My favorite is Crawl, and that is
Crawl was so good.
Yeah, and you know what? Okay, there's a good character one. That one had a good character story.
That one had a story that I cared about.
Yeah,
I agree. I wanted her to like. Yeah, no, I agree.
Her and her dad,
realistic like ways that the alligators moved, like in the scenes that it's obviously not a real attack. Is oh my god, that one was
that. Speaking of, because we were talking about ratings, that one I think was PG-13.
I think it was PG-13,
and
it's also not talked about very much.
No, like if you have and people watching, if you have not seen Crawl. Please watch Crawl. It was like a sneak attack film. I don't know why I wasn't expecting much from it going in. I somehow was able to convince my husband to see it with me in theaters, which is so rare.
Yeah.
We were actually in Florida when we watched it.
I think you did tell me that.
I might as well do that. Yeah, because his parents have like a little like place down there, so we were like down there for like just a week to just kind of get away and just relax.
Yeah.
And we go to the there's like an iPic like dine-in theater down there.
Oh, okay,
yeah. So we went and did one of those, and like
it was fun.
Yeah, but I was like, could you imagine? I was like, we're down here, like I don't think there's a hurricane happening, but
you're like on the phone, like let me just check really quick while we're sitting here.
And it was more Boca, so I mean, the movie took place like south. It was like we're all
by the yeah.
It was all like the wetlands of Florida.
Yeah. I love stuff like that. Crawl was really good. Anything creature featurey, and water is a fear of mine. Like I'm terrified of the water. Like, so I think, we'll see. This is, to
creature design alone, I'm excited to see this, you know, even if the story, it might not be like super like polished. Like I am like impressed by how that creature looks.
It does look very. He does look very high. Like he has a lot of high production value. I think
High production value, genuinely scary looking. Like
yeah. So we see like what that turns into for the
right. We'll see how it kind of translates.
March 14th, the lake.
So soon.
Yep.
And did you say if that is a streaming?
I don't remember. I think it is going straight to streaming. Dread Central reported on it, so probably.
Probably, right. And it's a foreign film. Which
it is a foreign
horror doesn't get a lot of
theatrical releases in the States.
Theatrical here, unfortunately.
Very true. Yep. Unless it's a remake.
Unless it's a remake of
right, like although I saw The Grudge in theaters with Buffy. And I sat in the very front because it was a packed theater. There were so many people there to see it. And it's like my favorite movie memory in a theater of all time because there's a scene at the end. Look, The Grudge is very old, so I apologize if this spoils anything. But there's a part at the end of the movie where she's running to go save her boyfriend, Jason Behr from the show Roswell. And she's going to save him. And she's like running down the street in very typical Buffy fashion, right? And Sarah Michelle Gellar. And so this like 6'5", 350-pound guy behind me jumps out of his seat and says, "Run, Buffy, run!" Like at the top of his lungs. And it was so funny. I laughed so hard. And it's like my favorite like theater.
That's awesome. I always just forget like The Grudge came out literally the year after Buffy ended.
It did, yeah.
So
there's like the people who went to see that were Buffy fans, a lot of them anyway, and that's why I went. I mean, I love horror movies, but it was like she's my hero. Like we're definitely going to go see this. And I went and saw it in theaters. I don't know how old I was.
It was 04. So however old we were in 04, if you don't remember.
It was so long ago. Anyway, so I that was like my favorite theater. But anyway, yeah. So,
and that was that whole string, right? It was The Grudge, The Ring, Pulse, One Missed Call. Like,
God, you're right. All of that was like early mid 2000s, right?
It was like 03 to like 09.
The 10. Original Pulse, for anyone who has not seen the original Pulse, terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. It's dark. It's scary. It makes you feel isolated and alone and afraid. It's good.
Yeah. I will say, though, with the Japanese remakes, they did do a good job picking their heroines. Because you had right, you had Naomi Watts, you had Sarah Michelle Gellar, you had Kristen Bell. Like, they were winners.
Yeah, I agree. Good on us.
But yeah, so looking forward to all that to say, looking forward to the lake.
Yes. March 14th.
March 14th. And now a little bit of news going back to video games. Blumhouse announced that they are starting a video game division for their production company, which I think is such a cool idea. I mean, Blumhouse is very much a mainstay in the horror community.
For sure.
They've just, recently, obviously, they've given us. Were they Smile? Was Blumhouse Smile? No. Anyway, well, we had our
Smile was smaller. Smile was a smaller production, I think.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right. I don't know why I thought about it, but anyway, the
maybe you're right.
Trilogy.
I'm looking while you talk.
Right? But I think there's no denying the power that Blumhouse has in the horror industry itself. Oh, Megan.
Halloween Ends.
Mm-hmm.
That movie you like Torn Hearts.
Yeah, Torn Hearts. So those are the more recent ones, but obviously like Insidious and like
they're huge. Yeah.
Huge
name in horror.
And I do love just the general Blumhouse aesthetic as well. So depending on, I can only imagine because they have their hands in so many subgenres. It's hard to say like what a Blumhouse video game it would be, right? I mean, because they have ghost stories, they have slasher, they have like killer robots, like literally everything.
Which is good because that means they more than likely will produce a lot of different things. I doubt very seriously they're going to pick one thing and stick with it.
No, I can definitely see them tapping into a lot of different subgenres. And now I wonder, I don't remember if the article said this or not, are they going to use their properties in the games? Like, is there a chance that we might be able to go into the further in a video game? Is there a chance that, like, are we going to get a Halloween video game for once? You know?
Yeah.
I mean, I think one did exist, but I think
I know what you mean, though. I know what you're saying, though. Like I mean,
like
maybe
a good, like legit, like
I don't know how that works with production company rights and stuff like that, but maybe.
I mean, assuming they own the rights. I mean, I think it's because they're the production company. They're not just the distributor.
Yeah,
right?
But it may be. It depends on who writes it, though, right? So, like, isn't there like a division? Because that's why our Silent Hill dreams got shattered, is because Konami and Kojima could like not agree on like and they both had different sets of rights or something. I don't know. I don't know if it's that black and white, but it might be. And I mean, they're big enough that they could probably make it happen either way, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm just be very curious. I mean, there's just so much like in their library of films. Like, obviously, I think I want to see original content too, and I think they should lead with original content.
I was just gonna say the same thing. Yeah, I agree.
I think that should be their priority. But it would be cool, like, if once in a while we get this game based on a franchise in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. Yeah.
What would you, if there was a Blumhouse, if you could think of, I mean, they have a lot of films. So my question to you is there a Blumhouse film that you would want to see influence a video game?
Gosh, I don't know. They've done so many. I was kind of with you on when you mentioned the further, like, I think you could do an entire storyline about other psychic mediums, people who have gifts outside of Elise that could take you into that world to solve family crisis, crimes. Like, you could go a couple different ways with it, but I think that would be cool because the further to me is the scariest part of that franchise.
Yeah, I just feel like that could be such a good immersive kind of game.
Like, can you imagine something like that in VR? Like,
that'd be intense. And, like, I'm even thinking like the ghosts in the further, the way they're just like always like smiling with like these big,
and they look almost perfect until you meet the ones that aren't. Like the guy with the oxygen mask from 3. You're like, you don't look like the other one. It's like, right. Yeah. No, for sure. I'll be curious to see what they do for sure.
Yeah, I'm like looking. I mean, there's so many. Oh, the Invisible Man, which I don't think you could turn that into a video game. But maybe you could even do some. Oh, you know what? You could do a very serious kind of game in the Split universe.
Oh yeah, you could.
Like, I'm almost thinking like a Falling Rain, kind of like story driven, like decision making.
It's like the one about the kidnapper. The one
Falling Rain about the paper cranes. Is that
Hard Rain? Is it called Falling Rain?
Not Falling Rain. Hard Rain. You're right.
That one is depressing, but it's very well done, though. You're right.
So, like, I mean,
kind of like a crime, kind of like, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can still have a supernatural spin to it, but almost like investigating. Because with the world like Split, it's just like it's very like, well, have you seen those films?
Yeah, I've seen. Well, I haven't seen Glass.
Right, but you have like Unbreakable, Split.
Split.
It's like, those kind of people who think they got powers, and it's like, I feel like you can kind of do something with that. Ma, the video game. I just want.
Oh my god! But you play as her, so you have to like set up the teenagers.
Like that's what I'm thinking of. Is like you run
that
around.
That would be funny. Yeah.
Maybe
yeah.
But yeah, no, I think Insidious would probably be, I think, the one that I would pick is like,
I agree. Yeah.
But speaking of video games and Blumhouse.
Yeah. So, and speaking of being able to play villains, so if you are a horror fan and are not a gamer, you should still know this one. Dead by Daylight is a popular horror game that has been, people stream it, YouTubers, Let's Players, film themselves playing and post it all the time. It's really popular. It's been around for years. They keep adding. So this essentially Dead by Daylight is you play, you can play as 4 survivors, or you can play as the bad guy, the villain, the killer, whatever. And you as the survivors have to go around and fix these generators, get all the generators up and going to survive, basically, to get out or to get away from the killers. What's fun about these games is the killers. So you've got Michael Myers. You've got Jason from Friday the 13th. You've got Freddy Krueger. The last update I cared about was the Silent Hill one where they added Pyramid Head and you could play as Heather. So they've been kind of there's others. That's just the short, like really quick, fast, like big ones. And so Blumhouse, whatever, is supposedly working on turning this into a film.
Which is so interesting. Is it? I can't imagine they're going to use the main villain, like the big, like
hell no, hell no. Do you know how hard it is to get the rights to those characters?
Yeah.
Like, and that's a whole nother tangent because we're already like an hour deep, so I won't even go down this rabbit hole. But but video gaming companies that own the rights to these horror icons, these characters, and these, like, even in just the gaming world, this is not including the rights in the films themselves. Hell no, they're not going to be able to use. There's maybe a couple that they own.
Like they have original villains.
Then sure, but they're not going to be able. No freaking way do they get like Jason.
Well, they own Michael. Blumhouse owns Michael. So,
right, they do.
They could use him, I guess.
But I forgot. You're right. They do have Michael, but not Jason and not Freddy.
Not Jason or Freddy.
But I think there's even Samara.
Right.
From The Ring.
Which I forgot who owns the Ring franchise.
I don't remember. I can see the cover, but I cannot. But either way, though, that doesn't mean they can't do knockoffs. That doesn't mean they can't do another killer with a machete and a mask. You know what I mean? Like,
I almost like it's. I don't know what kind of vibe they're gonna go for. If they want to go like true horror, or I almost feel like they can go like the Cabin in the Woods route with this film.
They could. Well, and I was thinking about that too, because the whole premise of the game, there's no story.
There's no story. It's just surviving a night being hunted by
fixing up generators that get sabotaged and you get put on these really crazy traps and stuff. It's really cool. Which is
freeing as a filmmaker, right? Because they can kind of just do whatever they want.
And call it Dead by Daylight because they have to survive. I mean, yeah, you're right though. They could do whatever they wanted.
I mean, like, I'm sure, like, again, I don't play the game, so like, I but I'm sure there's like callbacks that they can reference. I'm sure there's like stuff that's going to be like, oh yeah, that makes it like a quintessential like Dead by Daylight film. I'm sure there's going to be like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, the generator is in the movie.
There will be, and I'm assuming traps and stuff too, and yeah, all of that kind of stuff, and some of the settings maybe.
But because there's so many villains you can play as in the game, like I said, like that's why I was thinking like Cabin in the Woods, because it's like you could almost do a thing where, like you said, like you have like a knockoff version of Freddy, but then you can also use like, isn't there like an Egyptian demon thing? I feel like I have seen clips of different killers.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know all of them. Only the big ones.
I'm gonna literally just Google because I'm very curious. Dead by Daylight killers.
There's a bunch,
and I kind of want to just see.
And I think it's kind of a pain to like try to be the killer because you have to wait in a rotation, I think, or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because it looks like, because they have like, I guess their killers, which is you have the trapper, the wraith, the hillbilly, they have the shape. Oh, maybe are these? Oh, wait, are these other? Actually not, because I'm on there. I'm on like the Dead by Daylight wiki. The Huntress is the Huntress from a movie. That's who I'm thinking of. So not Egyptian.
Oh, I don't know that one.
Yeah,
but they do have a bunch. But they could always make their own too. I would be very curious to see. You know what I'd like them to do? Can they focus on my FNAF movie first, and then they can take on new projects? Until that movie is finished and out and I love it, then no. Like, you don't need to do anything else. Focus on Five Nights at Freddy's and then go on to a different video game, okay?
Right. Blumhouse is, they have their hands on a lot of different stuff. I feel like, this was just announced, so they're not like...
Sure, this is like more like a whispering.
This is more like possibilities, or like they're getting the gears rolling, but gears don't roll. Gears turn. Get the ball rolling. I mixed two analogies together. I'm tired. But
we've been talking for a while. It was inevitable.
But yeah, so in the spirit of coming to a close, though, we do have one last story, which is Hellboy is getting another reboot.
Yes.
This one
I kind of forgot about the other one that came out not that long ago.
That one was with David Harbour, right?
Yes.
Because he's
David Harbour?
David Harbour was the new Hellboy, right?
Why did I think it was Josh Brolin? I think you're right.
Wasn't hold on. Hellboy. So David Harbour was the new Hellboy, and then Ron Perlman.
Okay, you're right. I was thinking. I don't know why I had Josh Brolin in my head. Similar look, I think, is probably where I was.
Yeah. So this one's going to be based. So it's Hellboy, the Crooked Man, and I know that. So it's a kind of a new reboot, but they're adapting a particular story from the Hellboy comics.
Yeah.
So the synopsis on IMDb says. It follows Hellboy and a rookie BPRD agent as they get stranded in 1950s rural Appalachia. They discover a small community haunted by witches led by the Crooked Man. So it's kind of like this eerie folklore heavy kind of, the kind of the backwoods of Appalachia, right? Like very, it's just almost like a fantasy version of Wrong Turn, right? Like, lost in the woods, creepy, kind of lost in the mountains, kind of creepiness, but with more of a witchcraft kind of spin to it. Made me like, I was never like curious to read the Hellboy comics, like, but based on like movies. Yeah, just seeing the movies, but the movies are more like comic booky. They're not like
they are, but I loved them, especially the ones with Ron Perlman. I love those.
No, they're fun, but they were never like.
I'm gonna say the Golden Compass. That's not it. The Golden Army, Golden Compass, the Golden Army.
But they were never scary, right? Like I'm trying to think.
Oh God, no.
No, they weren't like like where the comics.
They were light. Yeah,
the comics try to be scary sometimes.
Oh, do they? I have no idea.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure that this story is like. So from the article, from what I remember reading, was that this was like one of the darkest Hellboy stories. Like this was like a creepy, scary Hellboy like tale.
Yeah. Well, so and it's good to probably like jump on the Crooked Man thing because people were, for whatever reason, disappointed that the Conjuring was not going to do the Crooked Man.
I know.
But the Conjuring shouldn't do the Crooked Man because it's not related to anything. The Crooked Man was just a guise from a very specific thing that was happening.
Yeah.
In the sequel, it should not be its own anything. So I'm not as disappointed about that, but I think the concept of the Crooked Man is terrifying. So I'm glad to see somebody doing it.
Yeah, no, and it's cool that it's not an established franchise in the sense that it's a sequel, but it's an interesting way to reboot something, right?
Agreed, because it's not just I agree that it's very unique. I mean, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah,
I liked the other one. I know a few people were not super impressed with it, like the one with not Josh Brolin, but
David Harbour.
Yeah, it's like. People were like, oh, it was like really bad. And I was like, no, it wasn't that bad. I mean, it was exactly what a Hellboy movie has been for the last, like, I don't know why we're mad. Like, I think, are we mad because it's not Ron Perlman? Are we mad but I thought it was actually pretty good. And I'm open to whatever else they want to do with Hellboy. I just really like the Hellboy movies. I thought they were really good.
Yeah. I mean, this feels like they're going to try to make it a darker turn, which I think is how you set it apart from like.
Agreed.
Marvel, DC. Right,
the other comic-y type.
Which isn't inherently bad. I love my Marvel.
I'm aware,
but like it's nice to have something different, right? And I think if you're readapting a comic book, how do you set it apart? Make it scary. Do
something unique. We don't want the same thing, which is probably maybe why some people didn't really like the other ones because it really wasn't that different in terms of Yes, that's a good point. Yeah, we'll see. I think it could be good. Crooked Man sounds terrifying to me. I know there is an RPG. Oh my God, what are they called? I think it's just called an RPG where the little teeny characters that look like Zelda's. Links.
Like a little sprite kind of thing, like a little.
Yeah, they look little, and there's like the graphics aren't super great. Whatever those are.
Oh, like an 8-bit kind of game?
Yeah, kind of like 8-bit. So there's an RPG game like that called The Crooked Man that is really good. But anyway.
Oh. Like it's an old game, or was it new made to look old? Oh.
Yes, no, it's new made to look old, but it came out like a decade ago.
Oh, okay. So it is now it's kind of old, but
now it's kind of old. Well, I guess back then. Well, I think that's just a style of game in general, though. I think people still make those, like the Witch's House.
Yeah.
Games like games like that. But anyway, but it was good. It was cool. Crooked Man is creepy in essence, so
that's cool. I'll have to look it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that brings us to our shout outs and recommendations. I know
Yeah.
you have one that you're excited to talk about.
Yeah. So I just had a video about this come out last week. What year is it? Yeah, I think it's this past week. My good friend Tom from Found Footage Fridays just released his 5th book, Odious Ghouls.
It's a fun cover.
It's so fun and it's so freaking bright in person. I just got my copy in the mail literally this week. And so I didn't know it was going to be this bright, and I'm obsessed with it. I love watercolors. Oh my God, anything watercolors.
Yeah, it pops.
It's beautiful, isn't it? And because I got an early reading, he sent me an early e-version of it to read. So I had already read it, but of course I was going to buy it and support my friend. Yeah. But also it was a really great story. And it's really cool because you see this purple part down here at the bottom? It says, "Found Footage fans rejoice. Tom has arrived. Angel Krause, voices from the mausoleum."
Oh wow, you got a blur.
Isn't that sweet? He asked me and I was like, "You just made my year." Really so cute. Yeah, and it's not just a friend thing. He told me I could be honest if I didn't like it, but I did. I have all of Tom's other books. I really enjoy his writing. It's very this is very different from his other novels. He does tend to be like so his first trilogy, or his first 3 books were a trilogy. They were very like YA kind of. Mm-hmm. And then the other book that I have that he wrote, Malevolent Nevers, is more like gothic horror, more adulty kind of things. But this is probably the most gory, most like dark and kind of scary compared to the other stuff that he's written. So it's very different. It's heavily, there's a little camera down here. Heavily influenced by found footage. It's not found footage, but it's heavily influenced. And it's a really quick read compared to his other books. That's not very long, but characters are funny. The story's believable. The scares were really well written. Like I really enjoyed this. So that's my recommendation. Check out Odious Ghouls by Tom Reimer.
I'm very curious. I know you said it's not found footage, but I'm curious to see what those influences are.
Oh, and if you watch any found footage, you will immediately be like, "Oh my God, that reminds me. Oh my God, that reminds me." Like it's so easy to pick out. And it made it, for me, it made it more enjoyable because I love found footage so much. So Odious Ghouls by Tom Reimer.
Well, speaking of found footage, so my recommendation, it's more of like what I've been watching lately, and I might have mentioned it at the top of the show, but I had recently watched The Outwaters, and it's a complicated recommendation because I think it's one of those things where I feel like I think everyone who likes found footage or is just a horror fan in general, I think everyone should check it out because I think it's one of those films where people like a lot of folks. It's either like you love it or you hate it kind of thing. I've been noticing. I'm somewhere in the middle. It's one of those films where I feel like you need to watch it to form your own opinion.
Agreed. I'm also somewhere in the middle, so I agree.
Yeah, because you know what it is. It's like I really dug the characters in this film, and I was a little disappointed in the third act. Just because I felt like they didn't quite do justice for some of the characters, but it's just a weird thing to say because that's why I said it's a complicated recommendation because I'm curious to hear what people think and if people kind of feel the same way I do or not. It is it is interesting. It is creepy. I'd say the third act definitely gives you like an unsettling vibes, and I was just along for the ride, and and I enjoyed it. It was very kind of trippy and interesting, and it was actually because of The Outwaters that I went and watched Horror in the High Desert, because I think I talked to you about The Outwaters. Then you mentioned High Desert, and I was like, oh shoot, okay, that sounds cool. So it kind of was like a weird backwards kind of roundabout way to get to High Desert. But I recommend it because I'm really just like, if any of our viewers are haven't watched it yet, I'm curious to hear your thoughts, or if you have seen it, please comment. I want to know what people think about this movie.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. It's a wild one for sure. No, I totally agree. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's my recommendation.
Cool. So go buy Odious Ghouls by Tom Reimer and go watch Outwaters, and then comment and tell us how awesome or not awesome you thought they were.
Yeah, even if you hate The Outwaters, I want to hear.
I'm curious too. Yeah, a lot of people have been talking about that one.
Yeah, because it's just like I think it's like I'm still forming my opinion even after having seen
I can
it.
see that. It's a lot to process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I love a movie where it's like you can kind of have multiple opinions at the same time about it. And then kind of like, if you think about it more one day, you feel one way, but then you think about it a different way and it makes you feel completely other way. Like, it's just like, it's one of those films, I think.
No, I totally agree. I agree. Because it was like, I mean, yeah. And it's also one that I don't know that you can have an opinion of simply at the end. Like you said, you definitely have to like think about it, go back to it, mull it over. Yeah, I agree. So, well, that's all we have for this episode of the Coffee Crypt. Hopefully this was informative and entertaining.
We hope.
We went from talking Scream and Evil Dead to found footage. That's what happened.
Yeah. It always comes back to those three.
Yeah, it's it is what it is. But
and then next episode is just going to be very Scream heavy because we'll both have seen
Scream 6
sorry ahead of time. So
sorry ahead of time. Yeah.
We promise we'll reserve like a very specific chunk to talk about Scream 6, and then all the other stuff will happen.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Well, thank you guys so much for watching the Coffee Crypt. We will be back in 2 weeks with another episode, and have a great rest of your Sunday.
Bye.